Hi, I am Sunil Mahabal. I welcome you in this series How It Works on Electrical Engineering. And today is the part 6. In earlier parts, we have seen what is the structure of atom, then what are the different types of electricities are available, then how the DC current is generated, then how the motor works, and in last presentation we have also seen in fifth presentation we have also seen that which type of power stations are there, how many different types of power stations are available, and what is their population, and what is capacity wise how much is their share. That also we have seen. We have also seen block diagram of a thermal power station, which the fuel may vary, but rest of the power station, the contents will remain same. So the block diagram is applicable to all type of thermal power stations that we have seen. Today we will be seeing in the part 6 about the battery. So today we will be discussing about portable DC source, and this is the biggest advantage of DC. If we talk about advantage and disadvantages, then this is the advantage of DC over AC, that you can carry it in the form of battery. So this is a portable device. Okay. Now history in brief, what all has happened. So here you will see some pictures. Now in 1800, the Italian scientist Alessandro Volta invented the first battery, and from his name he has named it voltaic cell, voltaic pile. And the person sitting on the chair which you are seeing in the picture, left side picture, is Napoleon. So he actually took him forward, and in 1881, in the International Congress, the Volta's terminology was accepted, because in electrical engineering volts mean the potential difference. So in our house the electricity which is available, then the potential difference is 230 volts AC. A battery will have voltage of 12 volts. So that is the potential difference between positive and negative. So he actually is the originator or the inventor of the battery. And in middle picture you can see that how he made it out of copper and zinc. So this is one particular element, and the total thing will form one cell. And brine was used as the electrolyte, that is salt solution, dissolved salt. And on the right side you can see what is there available in the museum. So it was the cell made by him, and the right side corner picture is of Mr. Alessandro Volt. Okay, so if we talk about batteries, then there are basically two types of batteries, primary and secondary. Now, what are the primary types of batteries? These are available in various sizes and shapes, and it is used for where the less power is required, where the power requirement is less. There the primary cells or batteries are used. And what for they are used? It is like a wall clock, remote control, wristwatch, and toys, children toys. Now one speciality of these batteries is they are not rechargeable. They are all consumable batteries. So whenever a remote stops working, we remove these batteries inside, throw it, replace it with a new one. It is not chargeable. So the primary batteries are those which are not chargeable. When you consume the battery till it discharges completely, then you have actually consumed whatever was inside, creating the potential difference that you have already consumed. So it cannot be recharged. Now what is the general construction? that the if you might have seen these big cells which used to come in torch. In torches, we used to have these batteries, big batteries. Even the radios and transistors were working on these batteries earlier. So the general construction, if we talk about, then the outer container is steel. Inside the paper wrapper, there will be steel container. Then there will be a separator. Separator is for anode and cathode to be separated. It is an insulating material. So it will separate cathode and anode and stop them from short circuiting. Then cathode, which is the positive terminal of the battery, it is made up of manganese dioxide and carbon. And anode, which is the negative terminal, is zinc. So this is zinc and manganese dioxide carbon. And here the electrolyte is potassium hydroxide for free movement of ions. You need some electrolyte, which you will see in secondary type of cells also, that you always need a electrolyte for the free movement of the ions. So here the electrolyte is potassium hydroxide. So this is how the general construction of the primary cells is. The more interesting type of batteries is secondary batteries, which are chargeable. And therefore, they are very much useful to human life. Very much useful. For example, the vehicle battery, it is rechargeable. Whenever you connect it to a vehicle, then the charging and discharging happens in the online only. So you did not charge it separately. It gets charged automatically when it is being consumed. Then the small cells you can use in cameras and all. And of course the mobile batteries are also chargeable. So these are the few uses of the secondary battery. Now it is interesting to see what exactly happens in a secondary battery. The same thing happens in primary also, but it is only one time use. You can only get power from the battery as long as it has some charge in it. But that is not so in the secondary battery. They can be charged. Now let us see. So in primary batteries, chemicals that produce electricity are used up, and when they are gone, we say battery is dead. We say battery is dead. On the other hand, secondary cells are rechargeable. Now let us understand that how the secondary cells are made. But before that, this is the history that the first lead acid battery, which is till date commonly used everywhere in all countries, it was invented in 1859 by Gaston Plante. So he brought that battery into the market for the first time, 1859. And till 1882, when Edison brought DC current generated by a generator, till then, battery was the single source available for current. So even at that time in US, the DC current was standard. It was standardized. So everywhere only DC current was available. So till 1882, and from 1882, Edison brought in the DC current, which you can have by moving a generator or rotating a generator. You can convert mechanical energy into electrical energy. So till then battery was the single source. Let us understand it. So this is negative cell. These are all electrodes, but they are combined together. So 3 plus 3, 6 electrodes are there, and all of them are negative. So what is the material? The material is sponge lead, that is Pb. The short form in chemistry is Pb. It is grey in color. Then there is another set of plates which is positive, and the material of those plates is PbO2, that is lead peroxide, and it is dark chocolate in color. Okay. Now this is the construction wise, this is one cell, and this one cell will give you 2 volts. So in a vehicle, car battery, there will be 6 such cells, and all put together will give you 12 volts, because one cell can give you 2 volts. Now we will talk only about one anode and one cathode, that is only two plates, to understand what exactly happens. Okay. So let us see that these are the two electrodes. One is PbO2, that is positive cathode, and the other one is Pb, that is negative anode. Now suppose it is put in a container and we fill into it sulfuric acid, H2SO4. Then what happens? That this is the fully charged condition of a battery. That cathode will be PbO2 and anode will be lead, Pb, sponge lead. So this is the fully charged battery's condition, status. Now what happens? Suppose, and the concentration of the sulfuric acid is 31% when it is fully charged. Okay. Now what happens if I take a bulb? If I take a bulb and connect to positive and negative terminals of a battery, then the bulb will glow, and look at the solution, sulfuric acid. The reaction also has started. So these things happen simultaneously. As soon as you start drawing current from a battery, the chemical reaction starts inside the battery. So the anode will give excess electrons, excess free electrons to the circuit, and through bulb it will travel back to positive. So positive terminal, by sharing its own electrons, the atom has become positive. So it is ready to receive electrons which are negative in nature. So anode will supply electrons and cathode will receive it, all the electrons. It is being positive. So if you look at the solution, then what happens when the battery discharges or when you start drawing current? Then at the negative terminal, that is anode, what happens? That lead reacts with sulfuric acid plus water, because it is 31% concentration. So what happens? There is a red arrow, and on the right side it is the result of the chemical reaction. So two electrons are getting generated, released, are made free, and then Pb is now becoming PbSO4 and H3O. So PbSO4 is the result. When battery starts discharging, then Pb becomes PbSO4. Now let us see what happens at the positive end, positive terminal. So positive is cathode, it is of PbO2, that is lead oxide. So what is the chemical reaction? Lead oxide, when it reacts with H2SO4, then it receives two electrons. On the left side of the equation you can see that two electrons it has received from negative terminal. And what is the result? PbO2 is also getting converted into PbSO4, that is sulfate, lead sulfate. And this process is known as sulfation of a battery. Sulfation of a battery. And this also happens when chemically also it happens. So if you keep the battery discharged for a longer time, then the sulfate which has formed on both the electrodes will become thickened and will become hard, and then it will be very difficult to remove it electrically. So you will have to literally scrap the battery. So it is said that the charging and discharging circuit should be continuously on. If you park your vehicle and then if you try to start it, it may not. So your vehicle may not start because of the sulfation. Okay, and you notice here that in negative terminal as well as in positive terminal, at both the locations, it is PbSO4 which is getting generated, or you can say the PbSO4 is getting deposited on the electrodes at both the ends, positive and negative. So now you look at the electrodes inside the H2SO4 battery, inside the battery in H2SO4. Look at the electrodes. Slowly the electrodes will start converting into PbSO4, and the moment they become PbSO4, then both the terminals become PbSO4, so there is no charge left. So they are at the same potential. So there is no potential difference. There are no volts available at positive and negative. So we will say battery is dead. Battery has discharged. Both the terminals have become PbSO4, that is sulfate, lead sulfate. And what happens to sulfuric acid? You look at the bottom rectangle. It has diluted. The sulfuric acid will also get diluted, because in both the equations you will find that water is also getting generated along with the PbSO4. So this water will dilute it, and the H2SO4 will be in the diluted state. You just keep this thought in your mind, because we will need it after a few slides also. Okay. So then what happens? Then we take the battery to the charging station where the battery can be charged. So this is the charger in the picture. It has an ammeter and two wires, positive and negative. So now if I connect a charger with the positive negative terminals of the battery, then the charging happens. This is the beauty of the secondary cells, that you can reverse the equation literally. Now both the terminals have become PbSO4. Now you see the equation for charging, that at negative there is excess electron is there, and then PbSO4 plus H3O, and now we have given charge. So it will start becoming PbS again, lead again, and H2SO4. At positive terminal, PbSO4 which had formed at the time of discharging will now become PbO2. So once again the cell will achieve the same status, and the H2SO4 acid will also become 31% concentrated. So it will again become strong. It was diluted when the battery got discharged, isn't it? So now once again it is H2SO4 with full concentration. So now checking status of the battery. Now suppose you have taken the battery to the recharging station and you want to check whether the battery has really got charged or not. So how you will check? There are different methods of checking it. First method is obviously the current which is being taken by the battery. If the current is very low, 0.05, then battery is charged. That is the reason it is taking less current now, because the battery voltage is opposing the charger voltage. So therefore the resultant voltage across battery is very low, and the current drawn by the battery is also very low. So if it starts drawing low current, then your battery is charged. This is one method, indirect. Another method, if you get 12 volt in the green zone, if the pointer indicates green zone, then you have charged the battery. Your battery is charged if it is giving you 12 volts. But now, as far as this volts and current is concerned, it can mislead you also. Even if the battery doesn't have the desired amperage in it, it will show full voltage. It may show full voltage. This I have seen while working. When I joined the company and wanted, out of curiosity, wanted to know how to check the battery being charged. So at that time, I found that there are few batteries which will show you full voltage, but they will not deliver the desired current when the load is connected. So a battery may show volts, but it may not have current to support or current to give. It will only have voltage. So then it is of no use. The battery power capacity is mentioned in AH rating. So ampere hours, for how many hours, how much ampere can be provided by the battery. If you reduce the amperage, then hours will increase, because ampere hour is nothing but the product of ampere and hours. So if you reduce current drawn by the battery or drawn from the battery, your hours will increase. If you reduce hours, then your amperage will increase. So it will give you that much amperage, ampere hour. So while purchasing any battery for your vehicle, always check how much was the ampere hours rating, AH rating of your battery which got discharged, and how much is the ampere hour rating of the battery you are purchasing. They should be same. Then only they will give you same service. Okay. So this you should keep it in mind, that the capacity of the battery is measured in ampere hour, AH. Okay. Now the last method, which is very soundproof method and which will never mislead you. That method is to check the specific gravity of the H2SO4 or electrolyte. To check the specific gravity of the electrolyte. Earlier I have shared that at the time of when the battery is fully charged, the concentration of H2SO4 is 31%. So this is a bulb, this is a hydrometer. It is known as hydrometer. It has a rubber bulb at the top. So it is like a in dropper, that bulb. If you press it, then the entire air from the tube will go out. And then if you, in that condition, if you dip it inside the cell or battery and then release it, it will suck the electrolyte into the tube. That is how it works. So there is a glass tube, and inside the glass tube, you can see a float there with some marking, green, yellow and red. So what are those marking? Those marking, if enlarged, will look like this. That if the specific gravity of that electrolyte is 1.1, then the battery is not charged. But if it is 1.3, then the battery is fully charged. No need to check voltage, no need to check current. You can only check this and be assured that your battery is fully charged. Now what is this 1.3, 1.2? So it is a number, it is only a ratio. This is the comparison with water. So if you compare density of water, it will be 1. So as compared to water, the electrolyte, where you are concentrated it at 31%, then it is 1.3 times heavier than water. 1.3 times heavier than water. So it is nothing but the comparison, whether the H2SO4 formation has reached to its capacity or not. So saturation point. So if the specific gravity ratio number is 1.3, then your battery is fully charged. Otherwise, once again connect it to charger and let it get charged fully. Okay. But please handle it with care. When I joined company in 1977, when I started my career, then out of curiosity, I went to the charging station where the batteries were charged. So I was very much curious to know how to check and what reaction goes on inside and how the bubble appear inside the battery. Then you can hear the sound also of the battery getting charged. So I was very much curious to know how a negative plate looks like, how a positive plate looks like. So out of that, once I went there and I said that I will check the battery. Please give that hydrometer to me. So I pressed the bulb, then inserted the spout into that battery and then released the bulb, so the electrolyte rushed inside the tube, and then I removed it from the battery. So the end of the hydrometer was loose in air from where the electrolyte was dripping. It was dripping from the tube and few droplets fell on my pant and the pant got spoiled near the shoes. So it was all holes on the pant. And then I got the reason why everybody's pant who was working in the charging station had holes near the shoes. So I also spoiled one pant. So please take care while using this hydrometer, because lot of acid will be for dripping from the spout. Okay. Now if we compare, there are different type of rechargeable batteries. One is lead acid, which just now we have discussed. Then nickel cadmium, then nickel metal hydride, then Li-ion. This is the extensively used battery today. Even our mobile batteries fall into this category. Lithium ion batteries. So if you say on the vertical axis, it is smaller, it is indicating the size. Watt hours per liter. This is the capacity it has shown. And on the horizontal axis, if you see, it is watt hour per kg. So lithium ion battery will give you maximum energy in minimum size. That is the beauty of lithium batteries. But now if you refer to the table below, you will see that cost per kWh. If you want to take out 1000 watt hours from a battery, that how much it will cost you in lead acid and how much it will cost you in lithium ion. You look at the table. This encircled figure you look at, $8.50 per kWh or 1000 watt hours. Okay, 1000 watt hours you need to pay only $8.50. And now look at the lithium ion battery at the same capacity, 2000 milliampere hour, 2000 milliampere hour, then 24 watt hours, 14.4 watt hours, cycle life. The price will be $20 per kWh. $20, more than double. So it is very costly. Lithium batteries are very costly. And that is the reason why mobiles are also costly, because they use these batteries. If you talk about nickel cadmium, then those batteries are cheaper than lead acid. But capacity wise, they are not very good. So nickel cadmium batteries are used in toys, then might be in the first version telephone, this earlier telephone, mobile, they might be using this nickel cadmium. But lithium ion is being used now in smartphones because in lesser capacity or lesser volume and lesser weight, it will give you maximum output. That is the beauty of lithium. But if you talk about lead acid, then it is very bulky. It is very bulky to give you that much output. That is the reason. So comparing them cost wise, on the left side I have written that lead acid batteries are till date the cheapest among all. Okay, and still they are very famous. And now the mobile batteries, as I have said, these are the various types of batteries used in mobile. So the examples which I have shared are or lithium ion battery. You can also check inside your mobile which type of battery it is. So if we talk about lithium, then this atom has only 3 electrons. It only has 3 electrons, 2 in the first orbit and only 1 in the valence orbit, that is outer orbit. Therefore, it is a very good conductor of heat as well as electricity. So the coolant we use to cool down our engine in the vehicles, there also lithium is used because it has a very good property of conducting heat as well as electricity. Then it is the lightest metal and lightest solid element available. There is nothing lighter than it. Lightest metal and lightest solid metal. So weight wise, it weighs nothing. It is not freely available in nature. But like other metals, lithium is not available freely in nature. You have to extract it. You have to take it out from the ocean water. It is available in ocean water. Its density is very low. Its density is very low. It is one of only 3 metals that can float on water. The other 2 being sodium and potassium. So it is very light in weight, then very soft. And if we take the properties, physical properties, when you can cut lithium metal with knife, it is so soft. You can slice it out. But if you slice it out, then the surface will look silvery white, very white, silver-like. But within fraction of a second, it will convert into dark, like an apple. So you can cut lithium like apple, and similar to apple, it also behaves in the same fashion because of the oxidation. The apple turns brown, the lithium turns black, but they immediately get oxidized very fast. So thank you very much for watching this video patiently, and if you are like, then press like the button and also press the subscribe button of this channel, because many more such educational videos will be loaded on this channel. So do visit this channel once again. Thank you very much. Have a nice time and take care.